He's potentially off.
I see no reason why he doesn't pull up Brad. Brad 2 years ago.
Red.
How's it going?
No, my term is done.
Yeah,
Oh, well, you'll get re-elected.
No,
no,
I'm turned out.
we're talking about that
Age.
today.
Age.
We're gonna get rid of those term limits just for you.
Okay, we're gonna start the meeting and get serious. Welcome, and please remember that this board appreciates participation from the public. If you have comments throughout the board meeting or work session, please stand and state your name and address, and your comments will be heard. With a quorum of the board present, I call the meeting to order. Commissioner Timbo.
Present.
Commissioner Arntz. Here. Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Baki.
Here.
Yeah,
Commissioner Evans.
here.
Commissioner Hoven.
Yes, sir.
And I am here as well. All right. Call to order, and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First agenda item is the consent agenda. This agenda is made up of routine day-to-day items that require board action but do not appear to have significant public impact. Items may be pulled from the consent agenda for separate discussion or vote by any board member. We have item A, the approval of board meeting minutes from August 2018. Payroll checks totaling $92,119.37. Maintenance and operations checks number 24,129 to 24,198, totaling $235,854.52. You need to approve the passenger facility charge totaling $55,000 and approve the financial reports for August 2018. Are there any items that a member of the board would prefer to be pulled from the consent agenda? Go ahead.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Agenda's been moved. Is there a second? Motion's been seconded. Is there any further discussion regarding the consent agenda? See no discussion. All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda as listed, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Consent agenda is approved. And the director's report. John, it's yours.
Yes, lots to report on this month. You may have seen the weekly report. Our TIF meeting was rescheduled. The city had continuing questions with regard to our application, primarily dealing with the secondary industries provision in the state law that says that TIF funds should be used to create industrial jobs and value-added products. And so we did point out that the water lines that are being constructed, even as we speak right now, which will all be city lines, serve more than just the new hangar. They serve front range aviation, which is what we call an MRO, maintenance repair operation. Every day they're making modifications to airplanes. There's 3 planes under construction that I'm aware of in the private hangars that are just kit projects that are being put together. Certainly that seems to qualify as industrial activity. And then Lowenberg actually has a hangar that will be served by the water line, and obviously they're an industrial operator in our community, and this is part of their aviation. This is their aviation asset that allows them to get to the Dakotas and do business as an industrial operator. So with that, I think we've cleared the hurdle. We spoke to their attorney about a week ago and made some further modifications to the application to buttress that language. She seems satisfied with it, and so we've now tentatively been scheduled for October 3rd. Is that right? 7th. So tentatively, we'll have a hearing on October 7th to consider our TIF application there at the city. And so that'll be good to get that hopefully in process. We also learned this week that the city won't be inspecting the remainder of our water line. We are confident that we can complete that. Chris will be doing the inspection for us through the Jacobs contract. Initially, we had received a scope of work of about $20,000 from one of the other engineering and survey firms that we are contracted with on that project. We elected not to execute that scope of work. We feel we can get enough information out of taking some pictures and watching the construction happen. Everything's got to be pressure tested and tested for bacteria anyway at the end. And we've already installed 2 of the 3 water lines, so we feel the contractors got the means and methods down. So we won't be executing that additional contract, and we'll be doing the inspection ourselves. And hopefully everything will turn out fine. So we'll know more in a couple of weeks.
When you say ourselves, is it Rod or is it?
No, it would be Chris
Yeah.
from Jacobs. He's on site during construction, and he'll just be paying more attention to that water line since we don't have the city on site doing inspection. And hopefully, we've asked them to give us their billing, so we'll have an idea how much they billed to the project. I think the inspection on the last water line we installed from the jail down to the SRE was $97,000, wasn't it?
For the inspection?
Yes, over a course of 3 weeks, or 3 months.
It was not 3 weeks.
3 months, yeah. But the water line portion of that was only a month and a half, wasn't it?
It was a little bit longer.
A little bit longer than that,
Yeah,
2 months.
it's a long
So,
run, so.
97,000 inspection during that period. This scope of work is a lot shorter, so hopefully the inspection costs will be a lot lower. But yeah, we've asked to see those billings since they won't be completing any more inspection. We need to kind of know what the impact on our project budget is thus far. So we've asked them to do that.
John,
Yeah.
just to clarify, you might want to, for the minutes, 10/7 is a Sunday. So
Yeah, it's 9, that is corrected.
Oh, okay.
It's on the
Yeah.
9.
10/9. Well, that's good. I don't want to come in on a Sunday TIF meeting. That doesn't sound like fun.
No, it doesn't.
It's on the 9.
I've got a soccer game to coach that day. And then there's no update on the sign height yet. The city, for our development out there on Commercial Lot 1, the city has agreed to review an application of a amendment to the sign code. And so our developer is interested in doing that. The one problem is the sign is on property that's yet to be purchased. So the Swansons will have to sign that application. The property is in the county currently, so the city will be considering that pursuant to a future annexation and acquisition. But the city has agreed to at least look at it. Ideally, that will happen sometime before the end of this year. That application will get done and it'll be considered, and we'll have an idea of what the city thinks of the sign height. In addition, we'll be hosting a meeting this week with AdMax and the EagleJet developers. AdMax is interested in expansion again as they move into the 737 and Airbus lines. Obviously, we have a hangar being built that is that size, and so it makes sense to kind of get the parties together and see what advantages there might be in teaming up on a development. About 3 years ago, I think it was, Rod, we solicited proposals from local contractors to develop a new hangar, a new paint hangar for AdMax. And so I've also reached out to those developers to find out what the cost update might be on those hangars, if they're willing to share anything. The biggest problem with AdMax is always financing because they are now partially owned by the Chinese and partially owned by the original Canadian firm. And so it's always difficult for them to find U.S. financing with that structure. And so we'll see what we can do to find a developer that might be interested in working with them on a hangar. Maybe EagleJet would be interested. So we're facilitating that meeting. There'll also be the potential for some crossover business. Obviously, as large planes, large expensive planes come to our community, they often break or they might want an upgrade. We want to make sure that all of those aircraft owners are aware of the services that can be offered here. AdMax can do avionics here, which is hard to find these days, as Vince probably would tell you. Finding a good avionics shop is difficult. We can paint here, we can do a lot of things, which gives you an opportunity to get some of that crossover business from those airplanes visiting our community. And so I want to have that meeting, encourage those conversations, get everybody together and see if there's any synergies there. And so we'll be hosting that this week. And then busy construction cycle right now. Just about everything we plan to do this summer is underway. Rod, you want to maybe say a few words about where we are on construction right now?
Well, we're putting in water lines down by the private hangars, and the one 12 inches in and the 16 inches in that goes along the frontage road. Those two are pretty much in. Then they're just starting on the third phase, which is an 8-inch that goes out towards the new hangar. So they just started that, well, kind of yesterday, I guess, and having a little trouble in the rock there, but they'll get that underway here, and they've got about 30 days to finish that. So once that's done, that'll complete the water mains, and then they'll start on a sewer line for the private hangars. That'll start probably in a month, I'd say. So that'll service all those private hangars, Front Range, Low and Bro. All those people down there can now have access to water and sewer. So the city's going to make them, if they want water, have sewer. So we'll have to have both of them anyway. And as far as our SRE building, the snow building down there, we're expanding that. We'll be adding 4 more bays on that. That's scheduled to start here probably in the next few weeks. So they'll start doing some earthwork there and get the building ordered in the next week or so. So they figure they can have that done by March or April. So, and then Home and Aviation, they're moving along pretty quickly on their new fuel farm, so there's quite a bit of activity over here. They're getting foundations in for their large tanks, and I think that seems to be moving along pretty well. I think that's
Taxiway expansion.
Oh, the taxiway, yeah, down on the south end. Their United Materials started that a week or so ago, so that's moving along. Moved a lot of dirt there. That'll extend the taxiway out towards the new hangar and widen it for the larger airplanes that will use that hangar. So that's underway. And and then the rent-a-car lot, we started that yesterday. So a lot going on out there. The rent-a-car lot's getting expanded. We did expand the employee piece of it earlier this summer. We did that in-house. And so now United Materials is out there. They're going to do some milling and resurfacing and realigning the rent-a-car lot there. So that'll be phase 1, then they'll come back towards the building. Then the second phase will be more realignment or paint mainly. So
So exciting stuff.
lots going on.
Yeah, we did find enough funding to award the 4th bay, and we met with the contractor and let them know that. So they are going to order the 4th bay. We aren't going to do the mezzanine rack. That's the one thing we cut out of it just to make sure we have enough funding. It's about $77,000 to put the mezzanine rack over top of the 4th bay there. And our thought is we'll wait until spring as they near completion of that project and see if the contractor still wants to do that work. They'll just be buying a racking system locally, so there's not a lot of advanced planning that needs to happen. The floor will have structural capability to support the rack in the future, so we could always do that piece later. But it was we're a little shy on funding, so that was the one thing we could cut out that was relatively easy to do in later. So we didn't award that. We'll see how the cash flow holds up, and if we get into spring and we have excess cash flow, then maybe we'll award that then. The mezzanine rack is just a place where we can take some of our broom fill and some of the lighter floor space consuming stuff and put it up above the trucks so that we've got an area to store that so it's not eating up floor space. Despite the fact that that building's enormous, there's not a lot of room between the bays when we start putting those big blades in there. And then if you think about it, those combi units are so long, it's hard to walk around them. And so you kind of need to keep the middle of those bays open so you can walk underneath the gooseneck. And so it doesn't leave you as much space as you would think for storage of oil drums and broom fill and the other things that we keep in that building. So mezzanine rack would be nice if we can figure out how to award it. But we do have enough funding to get through the project and get that fourth day in, so I think that's good. And that's all I have on the director's report.
Any questions or comments on the director's report? No further discussion.
Do we have a timeline on the sign ordinance?
No,
Creation.
it'll depend on the developer submitting the application, and so my plan would be to revisit with them again. I emailed them, I think it was 2 weeks ago already, and said, hey, the city will, did you see this email? The city will consider that variance. Of course, we'll have to get the Swansons to sign the letter, but of course they want to do that because they want to sell the property. So yeah, I think it's ideally that would get submitted, and I think I read the Board of Appeals meets once a month as needed. So once we get the application in, I think they'll probably have to. I don't think they regularly meet, from what I can tell, because there aren't many agenda items. But ideally we'll get that in and have a meeting yet this year.
How much too big or too tall is it?
40 feet.
Too tall?
Yeah, it's not even close. And I think it'll be interesting to see how they fill out the application. 60 was on the short end of what they mentioned. They really like something around 80. But across the highway are 60s, so that seems like that would be a reasonable place to start. No matter what you do, the sight lines are not very good because you're coming up the hills. So of course, that trajectory keeps you from seeing anything that's not very, very tall up there. So it would be interesting to see how they file the application, what they actually ask for. But yeah.
How does that affect our clear space for circling?
Up to 100 feet in that area has been looked at, I think, without any real impact to the flight lines, because the guard had submitted an application for like 120-foot windmills, I think it was.
Yeah.
And that one did have some minimum impacts on 1735. Of course, the tower's already right there at 120 something.
Yeah, around 120.
Yeah, right
The
around.
new water tank's 140.
Yeah,
It's further out, but
yeah. And of course, the size of the sign will matter too, because the tower won't want to look at a massive, obstruction out that way. But we might be able to angle that such that they're looking down the blade side of it anyway, because the highway goes perpendicular to the tower. So I wouldn't imagine they'd have a whole lot to deal with, from their angle. So yeah.
No further questions or discussion? We'll move on to agenda item number 1, marketing results presentation.
Yeah, so as you're all aware, the last couple of years we've been partnering with the CBB and TBID and the state in some cases to put together an advertising program, primarily in Chicago and the markets that feed out of Chicago. We've had some marketing in Seattle and markets that feed out of Seattle also. And so every year we've been kind of giving you the results of that marketing program. And I'll turn it over to Went to kind of talk about the how the campaign went this year.
First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for getting Pam and me out of the office on such a beautiful Montana afternoon. As John mentioned, we've been partnering with the airport and tourism stakeholders since 2012, and we appreciate having a few minutes to bring you another successful campaign for 2018. I'm John Wilcox. I'm an account manager at the Went Agency, and my colleague is Pamela Bennett. She's our senior media planner and buyer. I have 3 documents to pass out. One is a social media report. The second is the campaign final tracking, and it's very detailed, and we'll give you an overview of full campaign results. And then the third is campaign takeaways, so that you have everything that we're going to talk about at a glance.
Pass those out. Again, happy to be here. I think we were here last year kind of recapping our results from our marketing strategies and placements across the spring months. We typically start our campaigns in March and run typically up till May, Memorial Day. Sometimes they trail into June with some of the social media efforts. Our campaign last year was, again, really focusing in on some of our key flight markets, Chicago being primarily just to support that United Airlines flight, Seattle, Portland as well, Minneapolis, and then 2 that we brought in this year with some sizable spend and emphasis was Philadelphia and Charlotte. We also had a little sub-campaign on our social channel that outlined some content about Waterton Lakes National Park that was primarily targeting just sort of our proximity to, of course, Glacier and Waterton to the Chicago and New York market.
Waterton funds that campaign. We formed a partnership with them, it's been 2 years ago now, to help pay for part of our campaign. They're realizing a strategic advantage in trying to get Americans to come through Great Falls as opposed to flying into Calgary and then trying to suck them out of that Banff market, which is so close to there, over to Waterton, whereas here they may ultimately be visiting Glacier anyway. It doesn't really require a lot of additional planning to visit Waterton on a trip to Glacier, as long as you remember your passport. And so, that was a partnership I went up and recruited a couple years ago in Lethbridge at their equivalent of the CVB. And so for the last 2 years, we've had sub-campaigns where we commit all the funds that they give us directly to Waterton marketing. Right, because if we can inherit that traffic, the traffic comes back to our website, genuinemontana.com. So if we can get somebody to plan a trip to Waterton via Great Falls, it's a win-win for both of us. So works out to be a nice little add-on to what we do.
So that was just a small component. Overall, I'll just talk about the key takeaways. This campaign on the digital side, I kind of have it broken apart into 2 pieces. There's social, where we do some promoted posts and content on your own Great Falls Airport Facebook page and to push advertising out through that Facebook channel. And then we actually buy advertising across different channels, different publisher sites, different digital serving platforms, DSPs, across our markets. And that campaign, the digital campaign, had over 10,800,000 impressions. And an impression, again, is you saw an ad, you saw a piece of content, you saw a Facebook post, you saw something, the video, the image. So 10 million impressions. Of that, there was 28,000 total clicks or actions. And again, a click could be they clicked on our ad and went back to the Genuine Montana page, which is the airport page, or they clicked on a photo, they clicked on a link, they went to a story that we had developed, which we call native content. So of that translates to a 0.26 click-through rate, and 0.26 is phenomenal. We're very, very happy with this performance. Benchmark click-through rates just for ad serving is 0.06 to 0.08. So clicking on an ad, just a general ad, you're happy with 0.06. We're very, very happy with 0.26. It meant that people engaged with our message, whether it was the video, the messaging, the social cross-promotion, or just reading through some content and engaging with that. On the social activity side, this is the social report. This campaign did amazingly well as well. We had over 6 million impressions on our socials, on our social page, our social channels, which was Facebook and Instagram. From that, we had over 16,700 clicks or actions. Those were unique clicks or actions, again, on Facebook and Instagram. That's a 0.32 click-through rate, which is, again, very, very high. And what a really solid number here is our cost per click was 57 cents on Facebook, which is really, really efficient. The most efficient media, the most cost-effective media is always the social side, Facebook and Instagram. The one thing I want to point out that's in this report is we set a goal of just increasing our clicks or our actions by 10%. We surpassed that by double. We were hoping for about 8,800 clicks. We got 16,752, which was from the video, from the content, from the testing of our different pieces in and about the campaign. So of that, both pieces, the digital campaign and the social campaign, surpassed our expectations and did very, very well. Part of our campaign were video elements. We acquired some video last year from Fish, Life, and Parks, which was some drone video of the Buffalo Jump and of the Missouri River and Giant Springs. And these were new, compelling pieces of video that we incorporated into some of our other messaging.
The Missouri River stuff is actually owned by the airport.
Okay, yeah,
we
so
shot
that
that.
too, that's yours.
We shot that.
And then again, in Chicago, we kind of had our Cub message. We kind of played on the Chicago Cubs, the bear, the wildlife, all of that, plus the glacier imagery, the park imagery, all very compelling. So when you see here, Big America on the big digital report, are some creative assets that kind of speak to the landscapes, the Bob Marshall, the Chinese Wall, the Glacier Park. And then Cubs speaks to some of the Chicago Cubs, a little bit of words there, and the imagery of wildlife in Great Falls. So of that, we had native content, some what I call complex units. Native content is the stuff that you see as you're reading, and you're like, well, is this an ad? Oh yeah, it says sponsored by. It is an ad, but it's creatively placed within the content, within the news feed, so that you're reading. You're actually reading about something that says, here's 10 reasons why you should visit Genuine Montana, or Genuine Montana is a great place. What do you know about Genuine Montana? So these were custom crafted pieces that were placed in the Chicago market, Minneapolis market, Portland, and Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, we did something new this year, something that I thought worked very, very well. I just pointed out on the last page of this big data sheet. Philadelphia had a quiz, and this quiz was broken out to, 10 questions, and they were just simple questions. But again, if you think about the time you spend on Facebook, you might spend 5 seconds on something. They spent 44 seconds on this quiz, which is great. We're very, very happy with that. On some of the other content pieces that required reading, we were able to secure 2 to 3 minutes on reading time. So people want to learn about this area, what there is to do, things to see. The quiz garnered a huge result out of all the pieces. This was probably our most successful, and I think it speaks to the fact that we've been in the Chicago market with messaging for about 3 or 4 years. Philadelphia has never seen anything. And I don't think they've seen anything from the state. It's kind of an overlooked market from our research with the state. I don't think the state is doing active advertising in that market solely. So 7,000 clicks or shares or actions for a really high click-through rate of 0.93. So that's great. I think that this is a market that wants to learn about this area. And again, it also garnered some response, true conversion response of 303 responses that they wanted to hear from us. They sent, here's my email, you can send me something. Send me a travel guide, send me an email. So that's a true conversion here. So Philadelphia did very, very well. And then, just kind of keep going. Part of our placement, we actually use what's out there. Digital serving platforms are programmatic in nature. Programmatic is sort of a buzzword we use in the digital media. It's a way of using machine learning and algorithms that are invented or proprietary to the technology platforms that have these DSPs. And one of them is Sojourn. So on your front page here, Sojourn is a travel DSP. They have an aggregate of all the inventory when you are searching for travel. You're going to plan a trip to Hawaii. You are looking. So once they've identified you as a travel seeker, they know who you are. And now they will follow you around for a long time. They will follow you around when you look for a hotel, when you look for a car, when you look for anything related to travel. So Sojourn is this platform. We use them. We started in March. We had over 2.6 million impressions with this platform. We divvied it up between the Chicago market and what we call the big American markets. Of that, we know that we had 80 confirmed travelers based on these impressions from these ads. They came to this market. They came to Great Falls. Of that, we know that 67 of them booked a hotel room in Great Falls. From that, we also know that there were 2,827 people that came back to our website 30 days after they saw an ad. So again, really resonating, our messaging is sticking, people are actively planning travel to this area. So that's Sojourn. They had a really nice click-through rate of 0.24. The other thing I'll point out is on the programmatic platforms, and you can kind of see this deep dive that they provided here. The other one that we purchased last year was Expedia, which is really more of a booking site, much farther down the funnel. We did see a difference there. Expedia, when we actually have what's called a kind of a marquee or responsive ad in the area of the search bar where you say, flights to Montana, flights to Great Falls, flights to wherever, Glacier Park. That ad had super high click-through rate of 0.67, 0.62, 0.78, and that's a really, again, when you're down funnel, down in that criteria where they're actually going to book a ticket, they're at that buying moment, they're in that purchase funnel. We had some good solid results there. So those are the programmatic features of our campaign. There's some other metrics here you can look through here. Again, our social channels, when we had our publisher pages or our publisher sites, sort of do a cross promotion. They promote it, not only do they see it on their site or as in their newsfeed, but when they kind of did a cross promotion from their Facebook page. So it was Chicago Tribune with the Great Falls Airport talking about Genuine Montana. Just huge promotion there. So not just on your own Facebook page, but on the publisher's Facebook page. So we had lots of elements with the 2018 campaign. Video, imagery, solid imagery, lots of messages, a quiz. It all worked really, really well. There's some historical reference here at the bottom if you want to take a look at that. We've been working with the Great Falls Airport for a number of years now, since 2012. And this was a very solid, great campaign, and we were happy to work on it for you.
Yeah, and this is, we've really committed to start getting into this venue about 5 years ago to promote our community as a tourism destination. And Great Falls is relatively unknown to many of these destinations that we market in. Certainly Philadelphia and Chicago, it's a lesser known market. And Montana is beginning to build tremendous name recognition. But to give the public the opportunity to see how they could use Montana through Great Falls is a new message. And so I think we've done quite a bit in the last few years to introduce ourselves as a potential gateway to a Montana adventure. And the reason we set up Genuine Montana is we can diversify what we market to people using that name. If we use Great Falls, we're telling them come to our community, and that's not an easy message to pitch to someone in Philadelphia who has no idea where Great Falls is or what might be here. We can, if you look at Genuine Montana today, we have Yellowstone on there, we have quite a few glacier resources, there's all of the parks maps, they let us use those for free, so we have all the interactive hiking maps and roadway maps from Glacier National Park on that website, trail descriptions, pictures, and hundreds of beautiful photos of Glacier National Park, Bob Marshall, and winter trails in the region, all those things. And so the website was really enhanced in the last year. Laura spent quite a bit of time on that, Laura and myself, building new content for that site. And now we have what I think, in fact, some of the folks who've shown it from Kalispell even say we have nothing like this. And so, I think we have something that we can be very proud of to market our region and show people how they can use Great Falls as a gateway to a fantastic vacation in Montana. And so as we get these messages out there and introduce more and more people, some of these aren't immediate action type messages. Some of these are, hey, I saw this amazing ad, I want to go to that place. It may be a year or two before someone pulls the trigger on a trip. But getting our toe in the door as a potential destination with these times that people spend on this website and exploring this website and interacting with our ads, that's what we're looking for. We want to introduce ourselves to a broader travel community around the U.S. as a destination. And I think we've done a tremendous job of doing that, and Wynn's been a great partner in doing so. And so we're very excited about these programs that we put together every year. I think it's doing a lot for us, both in helping us get these Chicago flights sold. We had tremendous load factors all summer. One of our strongest producing routes this summer in terms of load factor, even though we had a huge increase in seating. The seating was over 100% more than we had the prior year. And so for us to go out and fill these flights to a Midwestern town, it's pretty remarkable. And I'm excited about the potential of that route in the future to be a full-time contributor to our tourism here in Great Falls. And one of the stories I've told everyone, probably told you guys all individually, but that I really liked about it is I was down at Bighorn renting a kayak for my sister, and I asked Chris down there, hey, have you seen anybody from Chicago this summer? And he said, I can set my watch by that flight because I know when it lands, because 20 minutes later my shop's full of Midwesterners that are wearing $200 loafers and asking what shoes they should take with them to Glacier or if they or on the river. And he said, I love them because they buy stuff and they never take it back. So So I mean, I think that's a great example of, what this flight's doing. You got a local business owner who's noticed that his shop is full of out-of-staters, when that flight comes in. And so, he's got the case right at the bottom of the escalator when you come off the flight, and he's seeing real benefit from that. And so that's a great story, because that means there's gas stations seeing these people, there are restaurants seeing these people, there are hotels seeing these people. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for that return on investment for the broader region. This $100,000 may not all come back to us in direct flight one-for-one cost, but it's coming back to the region in a successful economic development program. And so we're very excited about that, and I think this is a key component of what we do in terms of outreach for the community. So, yeah.
All right, so I'm looking at your back page, your table here. And impressions, that's just somebody saw it. Clicks, they did something.
Yes.
And then, what is CT, that's click-through rate?
Click-through rate. This is basically
It's just
actions
the-
divided by your impressions.
Okay.
Yes. And we
Batting
like,
average.
we like to see that way above 0.08. Again, that's just an ad. But because we have complex units in here, like video and stories and quizzes and Facebook posts and all sorts of things, that number has been trending up because of those other elements. If it was just ads, you would see 0.09, 0.10, because an ad is just an ad, it's just an image, but this is more complex, and so it brings all those other elements in.
But, okay, we're calling this a win, but it's the lowest in the last 4 years.
Well, again, we had more impressions. I added in the social metric here. I added in the social metric to make 17,000. If you look at the cover of the front page, I put 10 million and 6 million to make 17 million.
So what you're saying is,
it is a win.
more people saw the ad and generated more impressions, but so many more people saw the ad that it kind of watered down our results. I mean, 17 million is, other than 2013, was the highest number of impressions we've ever gotten.
Yeah, and then 2013, 2014 are skewed numbers because of some Facebook metrics that Facebook has admitted that they were
Inaccurate.
not really forthcoming in how they measured their tracking. So just being
I
transparent
think we
here.
probably spent more on creative this year than we have recently too. I mean, we did spend a lot of, the ads are more complex. We did more video this time.
Video
which
is-
just costs more.
Yeah, and sometimes you're not going to click on the video. You're going to watch the video. So that's not even recorded here. You're going to actually just watch the video.
Video is a
You mean
tremendous
it's an
addition.
auto start, is that what you're saying?
It auto starts, yeah. So, I mean, there are some metrics here that include a click to the video or a click back to your website, but most of the time, we are just happy if someone saw the video and engaged with it and watched it. And that happened on Facebook and some of our other publisher sites.
Could you describe too how this amount of activity is boosting our Google search results? I mean, how does that interact? So if you're looking for a Montana vacation and you key in some words like glacier or something like that, maybe you could, how this amount of the interaction we're getting, the amount of impressions we're getting.
The more your site activity increases, the better you get ranked by Google in terms of SEO results, and then your website gets ranked higher and you become more visible just in an aggregate search or just an organic search.
We're not paying to be at the top?
At the top,
I mean,
there is no,
everybody tells me all I have to do is pay them, and I will be at the top of the Google search for tractors in Great Falls.
right, this
So I do
has
that.
no Google in it. So all this is doing is helping you to
Okay.
get to the top. So, I mean, if all you ever did was just
Buy AdWords.
your target.com and you don't buy any words because you don't have to because you're Target, you're at the top of the list anyway, organically. So we did not buy any search terms to support this campaign. This is all just pushing results and traffic to the site, and then by that, by its own very nature, lifts your site organically. So, and that's always a great thing. You always want that to happen. If you start dropping down, you need to take action. But
Yeah, and so if you go to Genuine Montana and you look at the Google Analytics on that site, for the last 3 years, Chicago has generated more visits to Genuine Montana than any other city. And for most of that period, Genuine Montana was the CVB site. So anybody that was trying to come to the Convention Visitors Bureau site for Great Falls was on Genuine Montana. And last year they set up their own website, so we don't have visibility to their demographics anymore. But I think that's telling when our campaign is generating more visitation than Great Falls or Missoula or Calgary or anywhere else you think might have people trying to visit to gain information on our community. Chicago is the #1 generator of those. And so I think that's really encouraging. And Seattle tends to be #2. This year, Philadelphia actually, I think.
Yeah, you had a spike in Philadelphia traffic, which is a direct result from this campaign.
Yeah, I
because-
mean, no one else is advertising in Philadelphia, so it's us. So it's good. I mean, we're getting the name out there. We're getting the impressions back, telling them about our community in a way that is usable to tourists, and we're excited about the potential of that.
Is Waterton giving you information like the Glacier and Yellowstone, or allowing you to use their maps and stuff?
Yeah, in fact, they rewrote that section of the website for us. We told them, say what you like. I mean, we're somewhat agnostic as to whether or not people go to Waterton or Glacier. It doesn't benefit us either way. So we told them, if you want to tell everybody it's better than Glacier, tell them that. I mean, put in there the content that you want people to see, and so they did. And they added some just fantastic photography. They have some really beautiful photography on there. But they rewrote the trail descriptions. They rewrote the wildlife viewing. They really added quite a bit to their portion of the site too. And so I think going forward, that's a great partnership. And there are very few rooms on our side of the park. And Waterton has, I believe I calculated about 60% or maybe it's 40% of the room inventory on the entire east side of the park. So that is a huge benefit to us if we're going to send people up to Waterton, because we're going to capture them a night or two on this side, get them to do something on the river eventually, and recreate in Great Falls some, and then send them up to the park. And whether they stay on the U.S. side or the Canadian side, at that point it doesn't really matter much to us. The economic benefit's going to hit somewhere over there, but we want to see the traffic flowing through here so we can capture the rest of that vacation. The rental car, the ticket, the travel nights, and some meals. And so, I think that's a really powerful partnership going forward, because they do have quite a bit of lodging on their side, and our side is constrained.
Questions? Thank you very much.
Unless you want to stay in Browning, right?
There is a new property in Browning, and it does pretty well during the summer, and I'm glad for that. But yeah.
Well, we can do the casino.
Yeah, they lost their Holiday Inn franchise or gave it up. I'm not sure which, but
We'll move on to agenda item number 2, the master concession RFP recommendation.
And I'll let Laura talk about this a little bit, but I do want to say, I think we all recognize the partnership we've had with Air Host for 30 years. And it's a very sensitive issue even now with the employees, many of which are long-term employees here in the building that are Air Host employees. And so certainly, we want to be sensitive to that. We're in that uncomfortable period where the news is rather fresh. And the new concessionaire hasn't had an opportunity to really identify how they're going to staff their new operation. So we just need to all be sensitive to that. It's like I said, a difficult, probably the most difficult at times, in terms of staffing. But Laura, do you want to talk a little bit about how we got here?
Yeah, and that, what John said is assuming that you all vote for Oak Wells today. We did let Air Host know that we were going to make the recommendation for Oak Wells, but obviously today is about approving that. So we did have 2 board members on the committee, Sean and David, and then John and myself. We put out the RFP and we received 3 proposals that were all good proposals, good solid proposals. We were excited about that. So we interviewed all 3 of the companies, and really they all did really well in the interviews as well. But after that, one of them was knocked out, had a great proposal, great ideas, but tailwinds, their financial package to the airport was less than the other 2 and really not not something we wanted to entertain. It was quite a bit less than the other two. So we kind of looked at the Air Host and Oakwells at that point. And I went out to Minot and did a site visit at Oakwells just to make sure that they were everything that they said that they were. And we were pleasantly, not surprised, but we were able to see there that they did do everything that they said that they were going to do. The reason that we are recommending Oakwells today, like John said, I mean, we've had some struggles with Air Host and their responsiveness and, trying out new things and trying to fix problems that we have. But we have had a good relationship with them over the past 33 years. So that is a tough one. And we know what we're getting with them because they are established and they are, they go back for decades and decades. And so Oakwells is a newer business. Was it 15 years they've been up and operating? But there's just some things that they're offering with their proposal that really interested us. And first and foremost, and this was validated in Minot, they are responsive and they try different things and they're right on it. If you have any problems, they're there to take care of those problems and try different things. An example, through the RFP process, we let everyone know that we're not happy with pre-security not having any food or beverage options when the restaurant is closed. And so in Minot, they put a kiosk up in there that has an iPad on it that people can order, and then the restaurant that's post-security would bring the food out to the people or drink or whatever they wanted. And so that was something we were excited about in the interviews and this and that. Well, when I went to Minot, they didn't have that kiosk anymore. They had a doorbell system. So they tried the kiosk. The people in that community were having a hard time using the kiosk and the iPad and going through that ordering process. So they said, okay, this isn't working, and they just put a doorbell in. So they ring it, somebody comes out, gets their order. They have a different setup than we do, so that might not be what's perfect for us. But I feel confident that they're going to work through and find what is perfect for us and what's going to work for our situation here. So that responsiveness is key. They have some new, fresh ideas, I guess, with food and just the offerings. They're going to mix things up a little bit and get some offerings in the back and up front here that are going to give people something different. Still all the staples, but with their POS system that they're using, they have just up-to-date information all the time that they can look at and say, okay, we're selling gangbusters on this, but nobody wants this, nobody likes this. And they're, again, responsive with that, and they'll pull that off the menu. They don't want to be making menu changes every day, but they're going to respond to that and make sure that they have a menu of offerings that people want. Another thing that's great is they are going to hire a catering manager. So the job right now with Air Host is one manager is handling the restaurant, the catering, the deli back there, everything. And it's probably too much, especially with what we want out of catering. We want those rooms filled. We'd like daily meetings. We'd like businesses up there, trainings, have those rooms utilized. And then, of course, we have all the parties and that on the weekends. But we want more utilization in our catering rooms all the time. So Oakwells is going to hire a full-time catering manager to supplement. Then you'll still have the restaurant manager and deli. So that really should bolster those sales, we're hoping. With Air Host's proposal, the majority of the capital that they were proposing was in the pre-security area, and I thought it looked really cool.
It's very nice.
Very nice. It would be really nice for our airport and just tie it into all of the other upgrades that we've made. But they didn't have anything behind those capital costs to to bolster the sales, to make it worth the money that they were gonna put forward. They weren't, you know, they didn't really have a whole lot that they were gonna do with catering to try to drive more business. Oakwells also has an app, it's called Oakwells To Go. So, you know, people can get on there. Whether you're in line as an airline customer and you're thinking, oh, this is getting tight, you could get on there and order, and then it'll be waiting for you when you get through security and grab your coffee and whatever and just head down to your gate. Or anyone who's working up here on the airport, Oakwells will push that out so that you could have it ready, run by here and run up and grab your food and just try to get more employees, not just in the terminal, but up on the airport in general, using the restaurant as well. So that's kind of a nutshell. Was there anything else, I guess, from people who sat on the committee that really grabbed you about Oakwells that I've missed?
Where are they based out of?
Good question.
I want to say Minnesota, but let me look here.
The gentleman who presented was incredible.
Michael.
They did not have the appropriate cable or whatever to use his AV presentation, and what could have been a train wreck for a presentation, he handled incredibly well. It was obviously he was a very capable young man.
So Laura, would the new position of catering manager include, I imagine, marketing the rooms?
Yes.
I mean, that's their job.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, so they'll handle that whole, under that whole umbrella and really try to push those rooms, get out there into the community and push that.
And Air Host wasn't doing that at all, were they?
No, they were doing some, and, you know, Holly had some ideas that she threw to me actually right at the end, like in the last week before these proposals were due, where she's like, well, I want to do this, and I want to do a commercial with the television station, and I want to do that. I'm like, oh, that's great, but it all came up with this. And so maybe they would have done some stuff, you know, just an example of Air Host, you know, the menu boards in the back. When they want to make a change to the menu, they go and they pull out the thumb drive, and then they mail it down to Chattanooga, and then the IT gal there works on it and then sends it back with the thumb drive, and then they go put it back in. It's a couple months of a process. And we said, give us that thumb drive. Took it over to the office, fixed it, gave it back to her and said, put it in there. And it's not marvelous, but it's, you know, it's fast, and that's what technology should be providing for us in this day and age.
And from what I understand, Oakwells will actually control that menu board from the home office,
All of
which is
that.
what you would expect. I mean, it's to be linked into their system. They make those changes. If they want to change price, it hits the POS all at once with the menu board. It's much more what you would expect from a modern operation.
Yeah.
And those menu boards, I mean, we had to, you know, when we redid that space back there, their plan was to have a stationary menu board. And at one of the meetings, I think it was even said, you know, that, you know, Pepsi will give us one for free. And I'm like, no, you know, we're gonna have digital menu boards back there because, you know, we've invested quite a bit in the look and feel. It needs to feel like, you know, a quality operation. And so that's the one thing I have to say is I think Oakwells, in terms of their use of technology, and it was funny because we didn't even talk about menu boards in the proposal, but all of the pictures we received from the other two concessionaires showed these beautiful new menu boards in their operation. And one of them, I figure, was Tailwinds, even, you know, talked about, well, we need to get bigger menu boards across the top here. You know, I'm looking at Laura like, yeah, I know. I mean, this is what we envisioned when we redid that space. And so I think, you know, that's, you know, kind of illustrative of what we're looking for going forward is just a newer, fresher approach to, you know, the look and feel of our space back there and how it serves the customers. I mean, the food concessions, you know, are really probably the most visible of the airport services to folks. I mean, you can have problems with rental cars. Certainly people will remember your rental car operation as being bad, but they generally associate it with, that was a bad Hertz operator, or that was a bad national operator. When it's your food concession, that becomes your issue. It becomes that airport's food sucks, and their operators are rude, and, you know, I didn't get good value for my money. And so I think it's much more inherent in our airport experience to have a good experience in those restaurants.
So how many employees roughly does AirHost have?
You know, they have, I mean, with the catering, they just have part-time staff that handles all of that. Between the restaurant and deli, they're like 15 employees that are staffing that on more of a full-time, but some work the catering as well, like the cooks and that. And so with that, the next steps, if you all approve Oakwell's today, you know, we have let those two know what our recommendation is going to be. Oakwell's plans to come next week and meet with John and myself and talk about that transition and what it's going to look like. First and foremost, we got to get a phone number stood up for the catering, because right now AirHost is saying I can't promise you anything, which I understand you can't promise anything, but we don't want to lose that. I had a gal today grab me and say, am I all right for my March function? I'm like, yes, you are all right. We're going to get you covered regardless. But so we need to give that to people right away. And then the next step for Oakwell's really is going to be interviewing the staff and talking to them and deciding who they are going to keep. You know, they want to keep everybody that they can. They don't want to clear them out, but they certainly are going to make sure that they do fit for what they need for their business.
Oakwell's out of Atlanta. And the other thing that I think we've got to really spend some time talking about too is Oakwell's would really like to have a hood back there to cook burgers and have a flat top. And so there's likely to be, and we've been seeing this in the weekly report for the last year, there's likely to be some construction impacts with this transition, some improvements made back there and potentially some costs that we may invest in order to make this transition. I think it's to our benefit to make an investment like that long term if it provides better service and food options. So I think that'll be an ongoing discussion with Oakwell's too, as to how what would it look like with it, what would it look like without it, what would the customer want. And so, yeah, so I think the next couple of months we'll have a lot of work to do with getting to know this company, should the board approve it, and setting up a plan for when they take over March 1st, right? Because March 1st would be the transition date.
Oakwell, will they talk to the people working around the airport, including the guard, and let people know they come up here to eat, maybe with a discount?
That's part of their approach, is that they will be marketing and pushing to the airport, everybody up here as well, and yes, trying to push those sales.
Yeah. And AirHost does have a nice discount currently. They've got, I think they call it the Fireman's Special. It's just like an enormous breakfast for like $5 or something. I mean, and so I would think Oakwell's would have the same type of.
But yet nobody knows about it.
Yes.
Just shrugging his shoulders. So they're going to push that.
They do have an employee menu, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's in it.
Do you have any idea how many airports they currently service compared to AirHost?
They're smaller. I think they have 7. I think.
And a couple of train stations too.
Yeah. And
Yeah, they're
so
much smaller operators.
we'll be their 8th airport, but very similarly sized airports. And that's what, when we called him last week on Friday, he said, you guys, I just think we're a perfect fit, for our model,
They
which
go
you
all the way,
guys are.
this one goes all the way up to Alaska.
I don't think they have anything in Alaska. They're in the Dakotas. I think they have 2 airports or 3 airports in the Dakotas. And then
Washington State.
that was the other guys. Tailwinds has Pasco, and I've actually been to that operation, and it's incredibly nice. I mean, I think Tailwinds probably invested the most in new facilities, which hurt their revenue proposal. But they did have they do have beautiful facilities. I mean, Pasco's airport concessions look like something you'd find at SeaTac or someone else with much higher volume. They're beautiful. And very well operated, very nice. And so I'd actually contacted Tailwinds when I came back from Pasco last year. I was down on vacation there, and I used to consult at that airport, so I stopped in to see their terminal remodel because, like us, they have an older facade that they've updated with some. They used a structural a metal panel installation to really update their architecture. And so I think that's something we could learn from going forward. And then they built, like us, a new central terminal area with new concessions. They're a little bit bigger than us, but those concessions are very, very nice. And so we did some calling on both concessionaires that proposed, in addition to air host, to make sure we knew what we had there. And I think all three of those proposals were great. Would have been really good, any of them. So, but I do think Oakwells gives us the best fit of revenue, enhanced look and feel, a quality operator, and their food quality seems to be excellent. I'm very excited about the food quality of Oakland.
Is it a 3-year contract?
No, it's 15.
15 years.
15-year contract. Yep. We feel that gives them the best opportunity to recover their investment. They're going to have quite a bit of money invested. For instance, remind me how this goes, Laura, but they've got to buy out how much of the air hosts?
68,000.
So right off the bat, they
on
get
that side.
68,000 for what sits on the ground now.
Just on that side though.
Yeah.
Then
just
they
on-
have to,
yeah.
the catering equipment and all that is
Yeah.
owned by air host.
The silverware,
So
the
there's a
plates,
lot of
everything
investment.
are owned by air hosts. So, there'll have to be some wheeling and dealing done, or they'll have to buy new stuff in order to start that operation. So I think it's not unreasonable to think they may have $150,000, to get in the door.
What's our annual revenue budgeted, or what do you anticipate?
We're about 95,000 on the food and beverage side that we get, and then the news gift adds about what, 30 or 40, Maria, in there. So that's the retail, shirts, books, all that stuff. So it's only about 120,000. It's not a huge number for us, and that's why I think quality of the operator, the experience they're bringing is so important. I mean, I think giving up a few $1,000s to get the right fit and somebody's going to take care of our customers would be worth it. But in this case, I think Oakwells can do all of those. And the other thing, the question was, and we debated this quite a bit, is which one of the three will increase sales the most? I think it's possible Tailwinds, who had the lowest percentages, could increase revenue so much that they're competitive with the other ones, because the look and feel of what they do is so good. But I think Oakwells is a good balance. They're going to give us a lot of that same look and feel with really good food quality, and will drive up the revenue number. But so when I got here 8 years ago, both of those numbers that I just gave you were about half. We've already doubled what we get out of food and beverage and news gift because of what we did in the back, back there with moving the concessions. So yeah, we're on an upward trend.
And that was on their dime.
Some of it, we paid for most of the shell. We built the shell. We paid for the kitchen itself, and then Air Host made the investment in a lot of the equipment that's back there. I forget who bought the furniture. Was that a half and half? We bought the furniture. So the tables and chairs we bought back there. So yeah.
And how much of the infrastructure is in place to put a grill there, flat top? I mean,
really none of it. I mean, they're going to have to vent it through the ceiling, which will be the hard part. And there's, that ceiling's pretty busy, as you might imagine. They're going to have to, and there's not a lot of room in that kitchen. And so I think it'll be a little bit of a challenge for them to figure that all out. We have some ideas, of how they could maybe use some other of that space back there to generate some revenue. I mean, if you can imagine, maybe we break out the espresso machine, and if we could get that on, rolling cart or something they could put in front of the Charlie Russell painting, then people that just want coffee and some grab and go type of stuff, might be able to go through there to help get the line shorter. My prejudice has been that line's too long and we're losing sales. That's probably our best opportunity to increase revenue. Because when I go back there for the early morning flights, the line stacks up, and then eventually people look at the line, they might even stand for a minute or two, and then they move on. And it's not really clear today where you go to order other than that one counter that points towards the checkpoint, even though there's actually two more point of sales behind that counter. There's this weird operation where the person registering or ringing you up goes back and cooks. I've never thought that was well done, and I think this is our opportunity to make those adjustments and really generate quite a bit more revenue out of the existing operation just by making it run better. So yeah, I mean, those are the types of things we'll be talking to Oakwells about.
Yeah, regardless of that hood going in or not, they have other options of pretty expensive equipment, but they're gonna have burgers back there, they're gonna have pizza back there. These pieces of equipment that they have, and they say you're not gonna know the difference
Yeah.
anyhow. They
There's
said
a-
we're gonna make the best burger in town, so.
The turbo jets that Subway uses, those are ventless, so that's an option. There are some other opportunities if we don't do the flat top.
Can they use some of the bookstore for restaurant if they deem it appropriate? I mean, are they going to be consigning both sides?
They'll have them both. I'd hate to see us lose that retail shop there.
Does it really make that much?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it generates pretty good. So about, not half anymore, but maybe 30% of our revenue is made on the meetings space up there. And so when you look at it per square foot, the retail spots making about as much per square foot as the restaurant is. Liquor sales are really high. That's a big portion of the food and beverage. And so, we want to make sure we're taking care of those folks. And then there's, and that's the other thing too. I mean, if you've drank at our bar, I've complained since we got back there that we use kegger cups. I think that's terrible. And so, I mean, that was an ongoing complaint since the day we opened the doors back there, and we never could get beyond the kegger cups. And so, I mean, with Oakwells, that was in the proposal. I wrote it in there and said, look, you got to find a way to use glass, or at least nice plastic. The free cups that come with the keg are not what we want. And so, I mean, I think that's a great illustration of what we want to see going forward. Is let's have a quality operation first. Let's give people value for what they're spending. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, back to the technology that Oakwells uses. They do have cameras back there, and he said if he gets on there, he's watching all of his stores all the time. If he gets on there and he sees a line, he's going to be calling up and saying, hey, why aren't we taking care of this or doing that? They also have, with that POS system and smartphones and all that, he says they get immediate feedback. I mean, there's numbers right there. He said he's been, had the person in the store give a bad comment, and he gets it, and he's like, hey, you have someone there that's unhappy about this, and they're like, well, this is what happened, well, go make it right. And it's that responsive, with customer service, just with the technology that they're using, so.
I think it's a pretty major jump forward in our ability to serve the customer. And that's what I'm most excited about. I think we have a real opportunity. We have the facility now that people respond to. They like the way our airport looks. Now I think we have the opportunity to serve them better with this concessionaire. So I think it's going to be an exciting change.
Do we have to take action on this?
Yes.
Please.
We have to vote to accept the staff's recommendation for the concession RFP recommendation. Does anybody have a motion?
Motion we accept it?
Is there a second? I'll second the motion. Is there any further discussion regarding the staff recommendation of Oakwell for the master concession RFP?
I just have a question.
Sure.
In your minds, do you feel that perhaps, and this would just be an opinion, do you think Air Host brought their best game, or was there a complacency factor?
To the proposal?
I thought they brought their best game.
Do you? Okay.
They were really excited about it, and they really thought they were going to get it. And they brought some great ideas, but I think they missed the mark on a few things. So.
Yeah, the strategic idea of renovating this operation out here, I think, was probably the tough one for me, because it would be beautiful, but if it's only open until 3 o'clock, it's not really serving us that well. Most of the revenue is being made on the other side. That's why our revenue doubled, when we opened those operations back there. And so, I just think there's a couple things there that kind of missed the mark with how the others perceive the market. And the use of technology, the other two are users of technology.
Right.
And they're newer companies kind of built on the newer foundation, whereas AirHost is an older company that has systems that have been around a long time, and they haven't transitioned into a more modern platform.
Any further questions or discussion? None, then I'll call for a vote to accept the agenda item as it's written. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. And agenda item 2 is passed. Agenda item 3, generator repairs.
Yeah, we had some damage from a commercial power loss to our switchgear and some of the other components of our generator. Unfortunately, it's going to be fairly expensive to retrofit that. And so we are asking for approval for $93,000, not to exceed $93,000, for us to make those improvements to the generator again. The funding will come from reserves, and eventually we'll get that back from the airlines through rates and charges. We'll probably bill this to them in the year we just closed, since the damage was during that year. We can do that during the settlement at the end of the year, and trying to recover those costs. But unfortunately, Rod looked into trying to install a cheaper generator to see if there was some way to save some money on this, and it sounds like the best course of action is to repair what we have and get it functioning again. Right now, we have a manual switch over, so we would be out of power, and we would be out of power just until someone got down there to switch it. But we've trained the security folks on how to do that, so hopefully it'll be minimal amount of time. But we do need to get it fixed so that the building doesn't go dark when we have a power outage.
Before, was there a regular test plan where you switch over to backup power once a month or something like that?
Yeah, we do that on the terminal generator, because it runs really a small amount of time where power to the terminal area is pretty reliable. And then we do have another generator for the airfield lighting, and it gets ran regularly just because of our Cat 3 operations. That becomes primary power for the runway light. So that one gets run a lot, but we do have this one on a schedule where our mechanic runs it. And it can, when it's working properly, transfer the power without even flickering the lights. You know, I mean, we can make it do that. If you lose power, your lights are gonna flicker till it comes up, but you can get it running and transfer power back and forth, and nobody will ever know it.
But it wasn't discovered because the generator's bad, it's the switchgear, the automated switchgear.
Yeah,
that transfer the power.
Yeah.
Yeah, we figure we probably got a power bump of some kind.
Yeah, they think it.
How long ago was that event?
It was June.
June.
Yep.
They just went.
And you discovered it when?
Well, right then, but
Because at that point that it didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't transfer, so then we went through and then had to get our Caterpillar dealer up here, and they went through it. And
Just out of curiosity, the cost of the generator and switchgear from 2003, is that
Yeah.
what it was? Do you know what it was?
what the cost of it was, I don't. But it's a huge generator set. And then.
What was the cost of the potential replacement?
Well, I didn't get an exact cost. Two things. One, they just told me we'd have to switch out all this switchgear we have, which they said would be pretty expensive. And the second reason was the room we have down there where this current switchgear is wouldn't be big enough. We're trying to simplify it just so, kind of like our airfield generator, when the power goes out, generator comes on. This one does a lot more and is a lot more sophisticated, computerized, and more electronic stuff in it. But
Who were you speaking with?
Caterpillar.
Okay.
It's a Caterpillar system.
Right, but you didn't investigate a Kohler or some
No,
other
just because that
generator?
engine and generator is very low hours on it, so, you know, you wouldn't wanna change out the engine and generator, because that's like it's a V12 engine. It's big. I don't remember what the kilowatts are, but it's, you know, that would be a huge expense to change out an engine and generator that's not hardly any time on it. It's just the electronic components of our system that have failed.
I'll make a motion that we accept the staff recommendation for the generator switchgear installation of the equipment as proposed.
Is there a second to the motion? Motion's been motioned and seconded. Is there any other further questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of accepting the generator repairs as recommended by staff, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Passed. The lease assignment of National Alamo to Enterprise.
Yes, this is the Enterprise owns National and Alamo nationally, so it's not a surprise that they would merge this brand in. And Laura, you can talk about this. The assignment agreement has been reviewed by our attorney. Do you have anything you want to point out on there?
He had a couple of changes that he wanted in there, and they incorporated them. And so this has been signed off by Mick. It's really pretty standard. I mean, their Corpat is responsible up to a certain date, and then Enterprise takes over and is responsible, but everything else stays exactly the same, so.
And this is in keeping with what you see elsewhere in the industry. In most of the markets now, Enterprise has purchased the National Alamo brands and operate them all independently.
And we saw it in the work session last month.
Yes.
The minor changes were after?
Yes.
Oh, okay, but nothing substantial in the, okay. I mean, I looked at it, but I couldn't really recall what last time was.
Yeah, there were two little changes by Mick, but nothing substantial.
I would move that we accept the lease assignment of National Alamo to Enterprise as described by staff. Is there a second?
I will second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further questions or discussion on the lease transfer? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the agenda item, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Move on to agenda item number 5, the extension of the director's contract discussion. And for that, we'll have a closed meeting. Laura, if you could turn off the camera,
Yeah, I will.
I appreciate it. We'll take, I think everybody could be back at 2:30. I think that'll give us enough time, but if you'll, we'll step out and let you know.
All right.
I would expect 2:30.
You just want him at 2:30 or you want everybody at 2:30?
I think it'll be John.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds fun.
It is. See you later. Got a cookie for the road though.
Stay tuned. My sugar.